On this Monday night, a Brampton family torn apart and in mourning after 6 of their loved ones die in that Ethiopian Airlines crash.
There were 3 generations. My parents, their kids, my sister and their kids.
2 children were among their family members killed. They were just 13 and 14 years old. Plus,
police received a call for shots fired. A male was found with gunshot wounds.
A man is dead after a lunchtime shooting at a busy plaza in Mississauga. Police on the hunt for the suspect. And tempers flare on the court in Cleveland. Serge Ibaka is expelled from tonight's Raptors game. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A Brampton family of 6 has been identified among the latest Canadian victims in yesterday's Ethiopian Airlines crash. The appeal board confirming 2 of its students were part of that family, and those who knew Anushka Dishit and her sister Ashka are having difficulty tonight trying to fathom what happened.
When we heard about that, it was a disaster for all of us to understand this. Sincerely, I was telling myself 100 times that, oh my God, if this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this cannot happen to them.
All 157 passengers and crew were killed in that crash shortly after takedown from Addis Ababa. It was bound from Nairobi, Kenya. The victims were from 35 countries. Now, as for that Brampton family, those grade 8 and 9 students died along with their parents and grandparents in that crash. Arkelda Yoon spoke with members of their family as they gathered tonight to comfort one another.
Sitting in their home in Brampton, Manan Vadya and his wife Haral are in pain and disbelief.
I'm speechless. Of course, there were 3 generations. My parents, their kids, my sister and their kids. So it was 3 generations. I lost 3 generations.
Gone in the crash are his mom, Hansini Vadya.
My mom has always been most caring.
His dad, Panagesh Vadya.
I always get his advice to make sure that I'm making the right decision.
His younger sister, Kosha Vadya, her husband, Prarit Dikshit, and their children, 14-year-old Ashka and 13-year-old Anushka.
They are my support. They're always been with me.
The family of 6 were on their way to visit Mombasa, Kenya, where Kosha was born. She wanted to show her kids the place she spent part of her childhood. It was meant to be their March break getaway. But Sunday morning, Manan and Haral Vadya's worst fears were confirmed.
Around 6:37 a.m., I got a confirmation that the news are true, that my 6 family members, they're no more.
I still feel that I'm in nightmare, and when this nightmare will be over. My mother-in-law is my real mother. She cares. For me, it's like she's there for me every single moment.
They had just seen one another on Friday, the day before the 6 left for their flight.
That was the International Women's Day. I gave rose to my mother-in-law that day.
And Manan remembers exactly what he said.
And I will see you soon.
But now, summer vacation plans will have to be cancelled.
And in August, we were planning to go to Vancouver and Banff National Park and in Calgary. I already had the tickets done. My hotels are booked. So I was hoping to get the best time of my life with my family, with my parents. But that is not going to happen anymore.
Manan and Haral Vadya say they are getting through with the support of friends and family who continue to show up at their door offering comfort. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Brampton.
Well, tonight, as the investigation into the crash and into that particular model of plane continues, Boeing says it is working on a software enhancement it will deploy across its entire 737 MAX fleet in the coming weeks. Now, several countries around the world have grounded that plane, although not here in Canada. With more on that and the international reaction, here's Cass Rusi.
I now invite all representatives to stand and observe a minute of silence in honour of the victims.
At UN headquarters in New York today, a moment of silence for the 157 people killed in the Ethiopian Airlines crash. 21 of the victims were members of the United Nations.
Our colleagues were women and men, junior professionals and seasoned officials, hailing from all corners of the globe.
18 Canadians were killed when the plane crashed just 6 minutes after takeoff. Among them, Ottawa native Jessica Haiba, who worked for the UN and recently was reassigned to Somalia's capital. Today, one of her closest friends says Haiba was excited to get back to work.
Jessie is a brave person. She's a superhero in herself. She's an incredible mother. She loved very deeply. She loved her family. She loved her friends. She is a humanitarian at heart, and both the United Nations and Canada have lost one of their best humanitarians.
At the crash site, heavy machinery was brought in to dig out pieces of the wreckage, while searchers continue to recover bodies. It's still not known what caused the plane to go down in clear weather, but with the recovery of 2 black boxes, officials hope to get some clues. Both Air Canada and WestJet say they remain confident in the Boeing plane. Still, the Air Canada Pilots Association is calling on Ottawa to take proactive action to ensure the safety of Canadians.
It's very important not to jump to any conclusions about any possible causes. It's important for us to get to the bottom of it. We have the black boxes. It's important for us to determine the cause and then to take the necessary action, and we will do so.
Cass Rusi, CBC News, Toronto.
A 23-year-old man has died following a single vehicle accident in Brampton tonight. The crash happened near Finch Avenue West and Kenview Boulevard around 7 o'clock. Police say the man died later in hospital. Finch Avenue West is closed between Steeles Avenue East and Darcel Avenue. Police say drivers should expect delays in the area as the Major Collision Bureau investigates what happened. And a 32-year-old man is dead after a shooting outside a boxing gym at a busy plaza in Mississauga this morning. Peel police are still looking for the shooter after finding what they believe was the getaway car. Ali Chiasson takes us through what happened.
The size of this crime scene behind me here tells us that there's a lot of evidence in the parking lot. This is where a 32-year-old man was shot multiple times. He amazingly managed to muster the strength to go inside Huff's boxing gym there to ask for help, but as we know, he couldn't be saved. Police will be interviewing lots of eyewitnesses. This did happen in broad daylight at around 11 o'clock in the morning, and what they say will be key in the search for the suspect. Here's Peel Regional Police with more.
We have multiple witnesses that were in the area. It goes without saying that with regards to the busyness of Dundas Street East, there will be video dash cams, businesses in the area that we will be trying to get additional video documentation from.
There's actually a second crime scene around the corner from here. Not long after the shooting, a vehicle was found abandoned and on fire, a dark blue Honda Civic. Police are investigating its connection to this scene and whether it's the suspect's getaway car. Investigators are hoping what they find on security camera footage from local businesses in the area will help retrace the suspect's steps. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Mississauga.
Nick Cerkovich is here with his first look at the forecast. We're in for a chilly morning, but there is some relief on the way.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It's all thanks to another system that's developing around the Colorado area. This one, however, will track a little further north, bringing with it some warmer temperatures. Now, it'll happen over the next couple of days. The storm system starts to develop. By Wednesday afternoon, we're looking at a few showers as that warm front starts to poke into the region. By Thursday, we're fully into what's called the warm sector of this. We've got some rainfall, but we've also got temperatures that are going to be into the double digits. For tonight, though, as you said, Mike, a little on the cool side, -7 degrees, feels like -14 tomorrow, 3 degrees with sunshine, winds start to lighten up, and the temperatures continue to rise to midweek. Full details coming up.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You bet.
I have no relationship whatsoever with the Premier or the Ford family.
Well, that is Ontario's new OPP commissioner answering questions about the controversy that plagued the man who was named to the job before him. Thomas Carrick, who is currently the Deputy Chief of York Regional Police, will take on the role April 8th. But today's announcement was plagued by those months of questions about the friendship between Premier Ford and Ron Taverner, who withdrew his name for the job last week. Lisa Shing has more.
York Regional Police has been my home, my passion, and my family for 29 years.
Thomas Carrick says it was the most difficult decision he's ever made to leave his current job as deputy chief for the new role of OPP commissioner.
Guns and gangs and human trafficking, illicit drugs, traffic safety.
But today, his priorities for Ontario's largest police force were overshadowed by the controversy that preceded his appointment.
I have no relationship whatsoever with the Premier or the Ford family. I have not met the Premier before.
The first choice for commissioner was a close friend of Doug Ford. Toronto Police Superintendent Ron Taverner was hired after the qualifications for the job were lowered. And because the OPP can investigate the government, critics perceived his hiring as a conflict of interest.
There is no question that the police remain independent.
Today's announcement comes 5 days after Taverner gave up the job because of the controversy. Carrick didn't even apply, and there are no details about how he was chosen.
There were a number of candidates who were assessed, who were reviewed.
I was approached by the Deputy Minister of Community Safety, Mario Di Tommaso.
Di Tommaso was involved in the hiring of Taverner and firing of OPP Deputy Commissioner Brad Blair, who was vocal about Taverner's appointment and called Di Tommaso's involvement a conflict of interest.
I can assure you this decision was made by Cabinet.
Even though Taverner has returned to his Toronto police job and a new commissioner has been named, there are still some loose ends that need to be tied up. The Integrity Commissioner still has a report. There's still an ongoing court case over whether the Ombudsman should be forced to investigate Ron Taverner's hiring, and the NDP is still calling for a public inquiry. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, Toronto police are cracking down on risky drivers this March break. Their zero-tolerance traffic campaign will continue tomorrow and focus on the top 4 bad driving behaviors.
Factors to crashes that we know drivers are doing that we're asking for a real change on. And that's around speeding, distracted driving, impaired driving, and aggressive driving. So we know those are the big 4 factors that we see more and more and more contribute to injuries that hurt people.
And officers are also going to be keeping a close eye on some more vulnerable people on the roads. 41 pedestrians were killed in Toronto last year. More than half were 55 or older. Police will also hold several educational days this week on pedestrian safety. The traffic blitz will end on Sunday. Ontario school boards will get additional money to support students with autism, as hundreds of children may soon enter school because they'll get less funding for therapy. More on what the Education Minister had to say today. Now the Teachers Union is reacting after the break. Well, the City of Toronto adding some dramatic music to some pretty dramatic footage all on its own. Scenes of the so-called Spaghetti Junction demolition this weekend. Crews working through the weekend to remove 2 bridges as part of the 6 Points redesign in Etobicoke. The good news, lanes on Kipling between Bloor and Dundas opening ahead of schedule this afternoon. One teacher with the Toronto Catholic District School Board has been arrested for sexual assault. Toronto police are alleging 36-year-old Brian Ross met with a 15-year-old girl 2 years ago, drove her to his home to talk about school issues, and there sexually assaulted her. Now, Ross taught at Marshall McLuhan Secondary from 2006 to 2016 and at Senator O'Connor College School from 2016 until this year. Police say he was also involved in coaching some sports. He'll be in court in May. The province announced funding for school boards today to help them deal with a surge in students with autism.
For each new student entering the school system, school boards will receive an average of $12,300 per student. This funding will allow school boards to make sure there are proper supports available during the transition from therapy to school.
That news comes after the province announced cuts to government-funded therapy for children with autism. More than 8,000 children are currently using that therapy, and some parents say without it, their children will have to re-enter the school system. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario is quick to point out that $12,000 to help school boards is nothing new.
For this minister to say we're committing to $3 billion again next year in funding, that's the same amount as this year. School boards are already struggling to find millions of dollars to provide the supports for spec ed students and children with autism.
Now, the government says it will also fully subsidize an autism qualification course for teachers, and all 72 boards will now have after-school programs in place for those students. A group of residents in Vaughan want to put a stop to a developer's plan to expand a local sports complex near Keele and Rutherford. The proposal involves taking over city-owned parkland and includes building a private school. Greg Ross has the details.
Parkland is not for sale in any community, or at least it shouldn't be.
Laura Ronaldo is the head of a community organization working to stop a proposed expansion to the sports village in Vaughan. It's currently part of 13 hectares of city-owned parkland. The 4-rink facility caters to local hockey leagues.
Our concern is that it is a for-profit development, so it belongs on commercial/industrial property. It doesn't belong in a residential area, least of all a park.
We reached out to the Mantenna Group of companies which operates the sports village. Owner Tony Firiato told the CBC the hub will support education, local culture and performing and visual arts, research, sports, digital media technology programming, and wellness and health. Included in the proposal is a new 5,000-seat multi-use arena. But at least one city councillor wonders how accessible all of this will be to the local community.
The certain things are benefiting him and his private school concept that he wants and his large arena.
The Mantenna Group says part of the proposal is to expand a school they already operate on city-owned land.
So these portables are servicing the Hill Academy, which is a private sports school.
I can't imagine that these are all Vaughan athletes that are going to be attending the school. There's dorms for 100 from what we've been told to date. This is not a community benefit. It's not going to be for the local community.
Residents say they are worried that a project of this size could create many more problems.
You can't imagine that something this big is going to come in and it's not going to cause traffic. We already have so much in the area that we're dealing with right now.
Vaughan Mayor Maurizio Bevilacqua says the proposal still needs approval from City Council. He says they plan to listen to community feedback before making any decision, and he says no project gets approved in the city of Vaughan unless it's in the public's interest. Greg Ross, CBC News, Vaughan.
Well, you could say it wasn't a good night for Toronto sports teams. The Leafs against the top team in the league. The Raptors against one of the worst, and they end up in a fighting mood. We'll have highlights when we come back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Toronto facing the NHL's top team tonight. Tampa showing why that is the case. Let's pick it up in the second here. Lightning already up by 2. Freddie Anderson takes a shot off the mask. Braden Point with a kick pass. Tyler Johnson with the finish. Now 30 seconds later, the Lightning would score another one. A shot that would actually go in off Austin Matthews here. He would get the Leafs on the board, though, taking the puck from Victor Hedman. But Tampa would win this game 6-2. And the Raptors in Cleveland, this year's Cavs, the second worst team in the East, but you wouldn't know it tonight. Pick it up in the third. Jetty Osman on the attack punch. Ante Zuzic, he puts the Cavs up by 14 at this point. Sparks flying at the end of the third. Serge Ibaka goes to the floor after battling Marquise Chris. Words are said between these two. He gets up, grabs Chris, and, well, all hell breaks loose. Both players ejected. Stay tuned for possible suspensions in the days ahead. More trouble in the fourth. Kyle Lowry collides with David Nwaba. Something feels a bit off as he gets up in pain. He'd stay in the game at this point, but would leave later on. Trouble all around as the Cavs win 126-101. Meteorologist Nick Sirkovich is back with his extended forecast. This is the week of the great melt.
Yeah, it would seem that way, Mike. We had the melt on Sunday. Temperatures for the next 5 days staying above the zero mark, at least for daytime highs, with the warmest of the days coming on Thursday. So we'll get to that forecast in just a sec. Here's what's happening over the next 24 to 36 hours. Any cloud cover that we've got lingering around tonight will clear by tomorrow. We're looking at sunshine across the board under high pressure for most of tomorrow. In fact, it's not until Wednesday morning where the cloud cover starts to move in, and this in advance of the system I told you about earlier. We'll see a few spotty showers on Wednesday, but really the bulk of this system coming through on Thursday with the warm temperatures and also about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain as it drives through the region. Wind-wise, today about 30-50 kilometers per hour in terms of the winds. Tonight they are petering out. By tomorrow morning, winds about 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, and by tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at winds about 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. So lighter winds in the forecast for tomorrow as well. Temperature-wise for southwestern Ontario, also a cool night, down to about minus 10, minus 11 degrees across the region. Light winds, though, minus 14 with the wind chill. Tomorrow, highs to plus 4, plus 3 degrees across southwestern Ontario. The Golden Horseshoe tonight, slightly warmer, about minus 8 degrees, and that's because we're going to hang on to some of the cloud cover for a bit longer. That'll insulate our temperatures a bit. Tomorrow, though, up to a high of 3 degrees, basically right across the Golden Horseshoe. Okay, next 5 days. This is what we've been waiting for, right? The big melt. 3 degrees for tomorrow, 5 on Wednesday. Again, we'll see a few spotty showers, mostly a cloudy day, though. Then Wednesday night, temperatures stay at 5 degrees, and they climb through Wednesday late night into Thursday. High to 11 degrees with about 10 to 15 millimeters of rainfall. It will be a windy day for us, though, on Thursday. Big drop in the temperatures Friday as temperatures hit about 1 degree. But as I mentioned, every day on the plus side. Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nick.
You bet.
Marvel Studios has yet another record-setting debut on its hands.
Space invasion, big car chase. Truth be told, I was ready to hang it up till I met you today.
Captain Marvel raked in more than $455 million globally during its opening weekend. That's according to studio estimates. That makes it the 6th largest worldwide opening ever and the biggest opening by a female-fronted film, vaulting ahead of the previous record holder, Beauty and the Beast, with Wonder Woman and the Hunger Games films before that. And here's a story about a Thornhill family that turned their weekend tradition into a community one with the help of social media. Day Lukacs and her husband would drive around every Sunday hand-delivering homemade care packages to the homeless in Toronto. Last month, she decided to post a message on her Facebook page asking if anyone would be interested in helping out. Since that post, the family has received more than 4,000 donated items and have created more than 300 packages with the help of their neighbors in Thornhill. The project, now called We Care, will be giving out all those packages this Saturday. And this Sunday is the Juno Awards. Alessia Cara is up for 3 possible awards, and she'll be Tom Power's guest on Q tomorrow morning, talking about her rise in popularity and, of course, the pressure that comes with it. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.